Hey everyone, Coach Stefan Rudolph coming straight to you from beautiful San Diego, California, out here at Lake Hodges area in Escondido, California, where I grew up. And this is Recovered Coaching. This is the interview program that I have for the 2020 Vision Quest, talking about health, nutrition, wellness, and everything involved that's gone through in my life, as people know, through my story in overcoming epilepsy, addiction, brain surgery. I love to hear stories from others, and I came across a wonderful human being, wonderful person, Lisa Hunt, and we met at a conference. I believe it was an Anaheim food conference, and she had her booth out there for Powerootz, her company, and helping other people. Her company is actually FedUp Foods, and she has a product called Powerootz. So I wanted to introduce everybody to her here on Recovered Coaching, and the show itself, the 2020 Vision Quest that I do here, is basically getting a better view on life with health and wellness, and how we fuel our bodies is what we become. The fueling is feeling, as I always say. They're two different, in those words is the letter U, fueling and feeling. So how we fuel ourselves is how we feel about ourselves. So without further ado, Lisa, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing really great. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm super excited to be able to talk about Powerootz and just the values that we have, in accordance with that, and the things that you find important as well.
That's awesome. And the one thing that intrigued me most here about you, Lisa, was your story. You were going into nursing, is that right, in that area?
Yes.
And kind of following that path. So maybe talk a little bit about where you started and what led you up to this path.
Sure, absolutely. I think it all has to start in the beginning, right? So I actually grew up in East Texas, and out there it is very well known that people don't really eat that well. And I grew up on a junk food diet. Both my parents own their own business and were very busy working, and kind of left me to have the run of the cabinets. And I think the things that I turn to the most are probably not the healthiest things, that's for sure. And so I just had an addiction to sugar and processed foods and things of that sort. And as I got older, I developed an interest in the body and in, going into the medical field. Originally wanted to be a veterinarian and specialize in surgery. And, circumstances led to where I decided to go into nursing instead. And as I became interested in that and learning more about nursing and all the nutritional factors that come into play, I was also learning on the side about nutrition. And I was introduced to a guy named Max Gerson, the Gerson therapy, by a friend of mine. And he was actually the first person to cure skin tuberculosis. And he was also the first person to create a cancer therapy that was just really effective through eating a plant-based diet and juicing and all sorts of things with that. And so I was really fascinated by how that ended up, coming to be, and just the connection between food and your body. I had missed that my whole life. And so I decided, hey, you know what? I am going to pursue a plant-based diet. And ever since I did, I've just felt so much better. So to kind of fast forward a little bit, I got into the nursing program to become a registered nurse. And I'm doing clinicals and learning how to, help these people that need the most care in their life. And one of the things that we were doing at the time was learning how to do nasogastric tubing. And that's where you put a tube up someone's nose and it goes into their stomach. And you're able to supply them with a liquid meal. And these are people who are so sick they can't eat for themselves and et cetera. And naturally, the first thing I want to do is look at the nutrition facts, or supplement facts, and see, what are we feeding these people? Because I was interested in that. Yeah. And so I look, and the first ingredient, I kid you not, was corn syrup. And they always list ingredients by the greatest quantity listed first. And I was just absolutely stunned that we were feeding, sick people. The majority percentage of their diet was corn syrup, and expecting them to improve and expecting them to heal. And it's just not going to happen, if that's your diet. And then that was followed by all of these, preservatives and just really processed dairy products and low quality, in my opinion, low quality vitamins and minerals. And I went up to my nursing instructor and I was like, have you seen like the label on this thing? Like, this is insane. This is what we feed people. And she's like, oh,
it's called mind blowing, right?
I was mind blown. I was like, how is this not like on the 6 o'clock news that we're poisoning people, And she was like, oh, but don't tell your patients that. And I was like, well, what do I tell myself when I go to give this to someone who is so sick that they can't eat for themselves and expect them to get better, like that's not going to fly with me. And I think that's when I really realized that I was going to have to draw a line, and I was just not comfortable with pursuing that field because it just really depreciated from what I believed, as a person, as how to truly help someone. And the ethics of it just weren't there for me. And so I didn't want to make a career out of, poisoning people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you had a heartfelt passion for helping people, of course, and then
Yes,
getting in there also for money and a good career. But then the passion,
yeah,
you saw the difference too. I was in
exactly.
pharmaceutical sales 15 years ago, so I know the difference. So that's kind of your wake up moment, right? And
Oh
how
yeah.
long were you in the training for?
I'd gone all the way through clinicals, and we were just now doing rotations in the hospital. And so it was right when we were going from hypothetical to real, right when we were actually treating people. And so that's when I was like, can I physically actually follow through with this? Can I actually, give somebody this? And I was like, I can't just push, pills for doctors and pursue something like this if I don't feel comfortable with it. It wasn't ethical. You know what I mean? So that's when I decided to drop out. And I've always loved cooking and herbs. And, in the last couple of years, at that time, I've been learning about, Ayurvedic medicine and the power of nutrition and things like that. And I thought, what if I was able to create something that was, a nutritional meal, a shake that was actually good for someone and that would make a difference and that I could be proud of and be comfortable giving to someone. You know what I mean? And so that's when I started exploring creating my own company and doing my own thing, because it's anytime you're working for someone else and you're truly passionate about something, you just find that a lot of times in business, people cut corners, and they're corners that are so important, and they're the ones that we need to never cut, as far as quality and sourcing and what is your reason behind creating something. And when that happens, you just kind of lose the reason why you did something, and it turns into just money or just business.
Yeah, you have your
That's
passion there, and the I know exactly what you mean. The corporate cuts, I call them corporate cost cuts, and usually it's like a company like yours starting out gets bought out, and then everything changes, and
Oh yeah.
you probably don't want that down the road. You just keep helping others. Go back to, you said Ayurvedic. Is that how you pronounce it? What is that exactly?
Yeah, so Ayurvedic medicine, it originated, from what we know, thousands of years ago, over in India. They're really well known for having these herbal gurus. And so what they did is they found different plants and herbs and roots and things of that sort, and they found that they had certain nutritional benefits, and they would prescribe and treat people using only herbal applications. And you're talking about things like ashwagandha, turmeric, all the, a lot of people are getting more familiar with these things now.
Yeah, my whole
little bit more
kitchen
popular.
drawer's full of it. All the powder,
Yeah.
turmeric, everything. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, getting and introducing people to that, even that term. That's why it's just it's interesting to hear that definition from what you discovered in that field.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a really promising. I don't even want to call it a field. It's more of an art. And it's just amazing. I mean, we don't know anything about plants, really. I mean, we know just enough to know that they're amazing, but I mean, what do we really know? And so, they've been treating people with all of these things for thousands of years, and they've realized that, there's all these benefits to them, and we can't even explain them in detail, but we just know people get better when you when you give it to them. And so it's just really inspiring to kind of put your faith in nature and instead of people.
And that's what inspired you. That's when you started the company, right? When you dropped out, is that correct?
Yeah, so I looked into a couple different things, and I tried to go to investors, and everybody said, like, you don't have any experience, you've never ran a company, you've never even worked in this industry, like, we're not going to give you any money because you're just going to lose it, and I'm like, come on, just someone believe in me, please, and so my husband was really such a good, he's the one that got me through it. He was like, if you want to do it, find a way to do it yourself, because you'll never truly own something or do something if you don't. If it's not in your name, you know what I mean? If you're not truly the one making the calls and making the decisions. And I was like, that's right. So I started small. I started a commercial kitchen, and, it was a slow start, but it was really exciting at the same time, because the customers that I started to gain, they just loved the product. And I literally had no money for marketing, or, you know what I mean? All the things that they say that you need to be successful. And it just spread by word of mouth. And it kept growing and growing. And I got to the point where I could finally hire a co-packer. And, that was 4 years ago. I just celebrated my 4-year anniversary since I started. So, it's been really cool. It's been really cool.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
And that kind of comes from the path that when I was in pharmaceutical sales, making these sales for these drugs, and there's a helicopter coming over, sorry, but I'm making these sales, selling everything going up that's coming in as far as like antidepressants, blood thinners, Altace, Effexor, and acid reflux medication. Ironically, I had 3 endoscopies for acid reflux, and I was still not changing my diet. I still thought I'm going to take Prevacid, Prilosec, Acifex, and not worry about what I eat. And that's the biggest awakening I hear in your story and helping others, is when people actually wake up. And I have a loved one right now that's going through eczema, arthritis. Tell me a little bit about, your story here about helping people, say, with arthritis or inflammation, and what the difference is in the diet that you have, the healthy living.
Yeah, I think what most people find is whenever they switch to clean, whole food and just plant-based ingredients, it's not just arthritis or inflammation. You have a whole body change. It changes your mind. It changes your spirituality. It changes your physical health in ways that I think we don't even fully comprehend. And whenever you're able to live that way and incorporate all of that into your lifestyle, it's not just the little things like, oh, I can get up and my knees don't hurt in the morning, or, I can go hiking and I'm not in pain afterwards. Like, you just have more vitality in your life. And it's all thanks to the wonderful plants and roots and minerals that have been created for us to utilize and to put into our bodies to be complete, to be whole. And so,
right.
Yeah. So that's just kind of like my visual. I don't like to say like, it's just one thing like, oh, this does for inflammation. It's more of like the whole body approach. How to increase my vitality. And whenever you switch to clean, whole food, plant-based ingredients that are, are organic and not treated with chemicals or radiation, that's just the natural consequence of it, is your whole body effect and life just becomes more positive and more vital. That's what I think.
And great. That's right on the money. And just paying attention to how your body is, because when I would break out in a rash, I had the same thing in eczema. I was just not paying attention, and I started reading the ingredients. And my famous thing in Google for about a year was like negative effects of, and I would type in, or say the ingredient. I have one for you here, like, because of some of the you had mentioned the cinnamon that you make too, like true cinnamon.
Yes.
And that was a big part. I think I was taking so many other ingredients I didn't even know I was taking. Right? To wake up to the little things that are adding up to a number of things, like less than 2% of, and it would have crap that you couldn't even pronounce. And I had to Google it constantly and see like, oh, that can cause inflammation and this and this and depression and death, And you're like, wow, I got to change.
Exactly.
So maybe like I'm looking at it right now, but is it pronounced Ceylon cinnamon?
Ceylon cinnamon. Yeah.
Ceylon. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
Ceylon
talk a little bit about that, or just the natural ingredients in other areas.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that I wanted to do is when I was first decided to create a shake, I kind of looked at, what are other people doing in the industry and what are they missing and what can I do better and what can I provide that people aren't actually getting from options that, that they should be able to have. And one of the things that I wanted to do is make sure that each and every ingredient that I provided was effective. It wasn't marketing, and that it had a benefit to it, that someone could take it and they would get that benefit, right? So one of the things that people hear about all the time is, oh, cinnamon, it's so great for everything, right? I mean, it's one of those things like, what's it not good for? And what people don't realize is almost all of the cinnamon that you get in your products at the stores, it's all the toxic or crappy form of cinnamon. It's not even true cinnamon. It's the cassia cinnamon, right? And so what people don't realize is it's full of oxalates. People with kidney problems have to avoid it. And it is just so gimmicky because it's sold as like this health food. And when I was developing my product, I wanted to provide something that was actually beneficial. So that's why I included Ceylon cinnamon in my products instead of cassia. It's a lot more expensive, but it has all of the benefits, health benefits that cassia doesn't have, that you hear that cinnamon has. So whenever you hear about the health benefits of cinnamon, it's from Ceylon, not from cassia. So just this one thing that I wanted to tell people about, because a lot of people don't know that. And, it's one of those things where it's more expensive, costs me a lot more to do, but why do I do it? You know what I mean? And that's where it comes down to providing something that's truly beneficial for someone's health and making a difference. Yeah. And it's not just a cinnamon. There's so many things that people don't realize. Like if you go to the store and you see 2 protein powders next to each other, and one says, organic pea protein, and then the other one is like, just regular pea protein. And you think, okay, well, what's the difference? One's certified, that one must be better, right? Certified organic. And then you say, well, where did they source the pea protein? And what people don't realize is, you can have the same ingredient on a label, but it can be completely different nutritionally, because how was the protein extracted? Was it extracted using hexane and solvents? Was it done over in China? Is it sourced from China? Which like 95% of the protein powders over the counter that you can get here in the US are sourced from China. There's very few people who source outside of there because China is so cheap. They're so cheap. It's hard to
that leads
compete.
into part of your story too.
Yeah.
You were gonna you also went somewhere else besides China. Didn't it take you a couple years to get started?
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that for my protein sources, I wasn't getting them from China. And obviously it's going to cost me more to source, in other places, but I didn't care. And one of the benefits that I could have had from a marketing standpoint, if I was just in it for the business, is I could have got certified organic from the get-go, just at the beginning. And I decided I was going to wait because I actually sourced my pea protein from Belgium, not from China. And I wanted to wait for that certification as bad as I wanted it, because I knew that they grew it organically and it was pesticide free, but the person that I was sourcing it from, they hadn't got certified yet, right? And I had to wait 4 years for them to get their certification. And now they just got their certification. So now I am truly can advertise as being an organic product. Yeah. So it was really exciting. And I was happy to support them and be patient and wait for that and still provide my customers with a quality product instead of selling out and going with a Chinese product, which, we all know has heavy metal issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's like part of my life coaching, turning the impatient to I'm patient, the imbalanced to I'm balanced, right? The impractical to I'm practical, and the impossible to I'm possible. So that comes in when you fueling your body again, the way we fuel it and paying attention to it. I'm sure you have a background with diet journals, right? Journaling your diet, how you felt. Do you do that yourself, or do you suggest that in any way?
I've done it in the past, especially when I was just learning about like nutrition, and I was taking nutrition courses in college and stuff like that. And especially when I was learning to restrict myself, when you're first transitioning into plant-based, I think is the most important time if you are going to do a diet journal to do it, because then you can see the changes. I've been doing it for so long now that it's like I just feel great all the time. So
yeah,
so
I know, right?
Like,
and you get one little ingredient, and your body just overreacts, and you're like, oh, I'm not eating that again, right?
Yeah. But in the beginning, like I remember the first time I was like, I'm not going to eat meat for a whole week. It was like this huge deal. I'm from the South, I'm from Texas. It's like meat's every meal, and I remember I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. I'm starving. And I'll never forget, like after that week, and I had a friend that was vegetarian. After that week, I was like, you know what? I literally didn't miss it for a second. I actually kind of felt better. And from that point, I never ate it again. So it was so easy because your body rewards you when you do the right thing. And it was so noticeable in the beginning, and my clarity, and I was in college at the time, so just my ability to retain information, and nursing is competitive, and I had to get into community college, so I got to have a 4.0, and you got a lot of competition. So I really think that it helped me reach my goals, as far as my scholarly goals, because it just offered me so much mentally, and it was a difference. I had this fog that was removed, and I didn't realize it was there until I removed it. So yeah, I would recommend doing.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. I've seen on documentaries, and just pay attention to myself too. You get foggy, and I know now from red dye 40, other chemicals, yellow dye, my candy fix that I still have an addiction to sugar. A lot of it. Then I pay attention though the way I feel, like foggy and just discombobulated, like I just don't feel good. It's like a hangover, right? Like a sugar.
Your body's
hangover.
Telling you, it's like stop.
I know, right?
Yeah. What's crazy is that you can feel awful, but be addicted to it at the same time. That's like the kicker for me. You know what I mean? I'm like, gosh, like, sugar, refined sugars were hard for me to let go of in the beginning. Meat was super easy, but sugars were harder. It's a lot stronger addiction, or a true addiction. And I fell in love with raw vegan desserts. That's what cured me of that. You take something that's
I'll
like a
have to
whole,
check that out. Yeah, my
base.
thing is
Oh
just
yeah,
chocolate
yeah,
after the sugar. Well, break this down. Alcohol is sugar, right? And I've been
yeah.
sober 7 years, but every time I would stop drinking, I would have to get that chocolate. And I didn't put the two and two
Right.
together until about 3 years into it, going, oh, I need sugar now. So it's different
Hmm.
ways, like, yeah, like you said, vegan desserts, right? Or anything that's
Yes, raw
healthy.
vegan desserts specifically, because
Okay.
now they make everything vegan. So I mean, you can get junk food vegan, all that you want. I don't recommend it. If you're gonna cheat a little here and there, it's not the end of the world. But it's easy to kind of make a habit of it and be like, oh, it's vegan, so I can have it. You know what I mean? So you have to kind of like be like, okay, I got to put this in moderation because they're making vegan food, processed food, full of all kinds of refined sugars and junk now because it's marketing. They know it's trending right now, and they're just making money off the saying it's vegan versus actually trying to make something that's
Right.
better
Just
for the
using the
environment and
V
your
word.
body. Yeah, exactly, right. So yeah, I look up I think it's rawfoodrecipes.com. That's one of my favorite websites, and they have the most delicious raw vegan desserts, and they're so good, and you don't feel bad after you eat them. I'm not saying like
I
eat like
just
a whole
I was
raw vegan
doing research. That's awesome you bring this up because I was doing research after a friend of mine this past weekend. We had our high school football reunion, and he's lost like a lot of weight. And guess what? He's gone vegetarian. He's gone the Game
cool.
Changers. He said watch it on Netflix, and I did. It's about the NFL team that has gone all vegan vegetarian. Well, not the whole team, but 17 players now on the Tennessee Titans have gone completely raw foods, and
That's
they're playing
awesome.
spectacular because you see those bodybuilders that are vegans, right? Vegetarians. And they're like,
Hmm.
you need meat to get muscle. And it's like, no, you don't, right?
That's marketing.
What's your feedback on that?
Oh yeah. So I mean, if you don't have a background in nutrition or science or anything like that, it can seem a little overwhelming because of the information, the mass of mixed information out there. Obviously, there's a lot of people who want to sell you a certain idea or concept because they can make money off of it. Um, the my biggest recommendation is just try doing whole food plant based for like 7 days, just 7 days, and then go from there and see if you can do like 2 weeks or like a full month. And you'll find that you're not losing muscle mass. A lot of times you'll shed weight and then you'll gain back in healthy muscle. That's what I did when I did it. That's what my husband did when he did it. So the best thing to do is don't read or listen to anybody, listen to your body and just try the whole food plant-based approach and see what happens. And I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised with the results. That's the best advice I could give. Find out for yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a big part of it because it's everything around us that we look at and then we start desiring with our addiction, my addiction to sugar, but then paying attention to our body. Because if you get stuck in that zone where there's no way out, you're not paying attention, then you don't know what's going on or why. Especially selling Effexor, for example, as a serotonin reuptake inhibitor and depression, studying it. I didn't live through it 20 years ago when I was selling it. It was something I lived through later and understood that my diet was affecting it. Alcohol, of course, dehydration,
Hmm.
the areas that we don't pay attention to. It's just like, I got to have a beer and that's it. And you don't think about it, right?
Right. Exactly.
Well, that's awesome, Lisa. So tell us a little bit more about how people can get a hold of you, your website, and what you offer, just anything in general that you feel would be good.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now there's two major platforms that you can find Powerootz on. The one of them is Amazon. It's Amazon Prime, so it's fulfilled by Amazon. You can get it in like 2 or 3 days, super fast shipping. The best place to get it, of course, is my website. So it's www.powerootz.com. And I'll show you actually a container. Powerootz is spelled a little different. So
Yeah, I was going to
that's
say the
how you
spelling
spell
always got me,
it.
but
Yeah, it's got a Z at the
yeah,
end.
power
It
with one
has
R, that's one
with
R, and
one
then
R,
roots with
right?
the TZ.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's spelled a little different. So you can go on my website and I can, if there's anyone who wants to try it, you can shoot me an email and I can send you a free sample. Another thing that you can do is it'll be active in about an hour. You can use the coupon code. It's called SAVE40, just SAVE 40. And that'll give you 40% off your first tub that you try. So, I mean, that's a great deal, literally at cost for me. So for you guys, you can try it out and see what you think. I mean, I have so many people that have had positive results and have better energy and better digestion and everything. So I think it could be a real game changer for people who are lacking energy. And it works great for breakfast, actually. Most of my clients, they love it for breakfast. It's quick, it's easy, gives you energy, and it keeps you full for a while. So, yeah.
And it definitely helps me because my esophagus problems, I still get the bigger foods caught if I don't chew them enough. That's why I'm getting away from meats. But an example is fish oil tablets. The bigger tablets, I have to either put in water overnight or put in hot water and then I mix it. So guess what I mix it with now? The Powerootz. So
there you go.
Taste, because if you break it down, I have to take apart all these pills and put the powder in there or melt it down or just blend it. And it tastes like crap. My taste buds are getting used to it, but you're like, oh man, they're just kind of grimace.
It's not enjoyable,
so you
right?
add something, or I do this, I add something like that to have a better taste. The actual chocolate of it, it makes me feel looking forward to it now.
Yeah, right. And there's one other thing I just wanted to slip in really quick. One of the things that is most important to me about the Powerootz shakes, and I really think is the really unique identifier for what makes it special, is I'm actually the first shake company to put clay minerals in the shakes. So there's what's called calcium montmorillonite clay, and the source that I get it from is actually the only one and that's ever been approved by NASA for use in space for astronauts to prevent bone density loss, and it's actually used by the Gerson therapy as well. It's just a great mineral source, and instead of it coming from a lab, you know what I mean, lab, vitamins and minerals, it actually comes straight from the earth. The stuff's millions of years old, and there's over 50 different macro, micro, and trace mineral elements in the clay. And what's great about it is it's in a serving size of 500 milligrams when you do 1 scoop of shakes. So it's not so much that you get like the clay cleanse, you actually get just the minerals from it. And I feel like that's something that people don't think about. Everything now is advertising vitamins, it's got all these vitamins in there. But the soil now only has, 10% of the minerals that it had 100 years ago in the United States, and about the same for other parts of the world. So we're just not, even if you're eating a bunch of fruits and vegetables, we're still not getting the minerals and the spectrum of minerals that we used to get. So one of the emphasis that I wanted to make is something where someone can get a complete remineralization in their body with a very clean source, which would be the clay mineral source. It's 100% calcium montmorillonite. So this stuff is amazing. And there's so many things that we don't even understand about minerals. And I think that they're so important, and a lot of people probably could contribute a lot of their ill health effects as having mineral deficiencies. We just don't have the science to back it quite yet. That's just my 2 cents on that one. But that's one thing that makes it really unique that I'm proud of. Yeah.
Your 2 cents, but I call it your common sense. How's that? Your new
right?
healthy
That's what
common
it seems
sense.
like.
Yeah, there you go. They're turning their 2 cents into common sense. That's part of it, is just understanding. And I was going to ask you, maybe this is kind of a little test, but I was drinking the almond milk and other related coconut milks, and I saw gel and gum and Axam. It's XANTHAN gum. And then I typed in negative effects of, and it's like bloating and it's other areas. Do you know any side effects about those or anything about it?
I don't put any gums in my shakes because I feel like, a lot of times if there's not peer-reviewed research to show that it's like, great, that does, or bad for you, that doesn't always mean that it's one or the other. I kind of to me, it's not very natural. So I just kind of try and stay away from it. I've heard negative things about them. We don't really have the science right now to prove that it's horrible for you yet, but that might come up later. You never know. So I just like to keep it more natural, more nature. And I think as much as you can simplify, the better your health and vitality will be, regardless of whether the research is there to prove this or that, or, you know what I mean? And a lot of it is so subjective.
Yeah.
People will be like, I read this paper and it said blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, that's great, but it's also kind of subjective too. And there's a lot of things that, we don't realize or think about or understand yet, that could shed different light on something. So I think as long as you keep it simple and as close to nature as you can get, I think that's the better. So if you can make your own cashew milk, which I love doing, it's so easy. You don't even have to use a nut milk bag, especially with cashews, because you just blend it, boom, you're done. As much as you can do that and do it fresh, I think it'll definitely reward you and your body in the future for sure.
Oh, sorry, it's a little windy out here. I muted it, but yeah, that's awesome. It's great to hear. I appreciate your time, and everybody. There'll be a link below on the YouTube channel here,
cool.
And everything you've said. And we'll probably have you back on as well again, because I love hearing about your new products.
Thank
and
you.
what you're doing. And again, you showed the website, the link will be there. Appreciate that, Lisa. And to everyone else out there, remember, recovered coaching is basically getting the recovery in your life and being fully recovered. And that's what you have as an inspiration here, as Lisa. It's just kind of like, you don't even need to keep a journal anymore because you know how healthy you are. Everything.
I know how good I feel.
You just tell the difference.
That's all the testament
exactly.
I need, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's our body. I say there's no body like your body. You're the one body, unlike anybody, unlike everybody. It's your body. So pay attention to that as we fuel ourselves here. It's Coach Stefan Rudolph at Recovered Coaching. Thanks again, Lisa, and you have an amazing day.
Thank you. Bye, guys.